everybody. Oh my goodness, look at my background, but we're going to go with it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am Shamika, the creator and founder of the NOSA Group, and today we are going to do a FAQ around getting started. So there are already two parts out there in the YouTube channel. And again, welcome to our YouTube channel. We're glad to have you. So if you want to check out the whole thing, I will start with part 1 and then work my way down. Today, we're going to do 5 more questions as promised about getting started. And today's topic is going to be a little bit more focused or centralized around questions about vendors and other companies or businesses that you may need to work with in order to kind of jumpstart your business. So as always, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And let's just jump into it. So we're going to do 5 questions again. And as we go on, I'll definitely share more of the questions in the comments below. But if you have questions that I haven't covered that you want to get answered, feel free to reach out to me or comment below the questions you want me to answer. So let's get started with question number 16. So the question is, question number 16 is, how do I find the right payroll company? Do I need one at all? So this is a really good question because some people have to realize, or it takes some people time to realize, is that you can do payroll in-house or you can outsource it. So payroll and human resources is typically some of the things that people outsource the most. So it's kind of up to you. So if you have people or you have access or resources that can do it for you in-house, that's definitely a viable option. But if not, most of us who may not have that access definitely use companies to run our payrolls for us. So it's important to look into that. I tell people, do your research. NerdWallet, Google, even YouTube are great resources. And I've touched a little bit about the ones that we've worked with are great resources to find out what's a good fit for you in getting started. So like kind of once you start the business, you kind of have an idea of how many employees you want to start onboarding. Then that's kind of where you can have a more in-depth conversation with vendors, payroll vendors, about what type of product is the best fit for you. I also tell people, try it out before you commit. So as I mentioned in other videos, I'm not a fan of committing to long-term contracts. So if they offer a 30-day trial or 3-month trial, even if they don't offer it, ask for it to see whether or not it fits with the style of how you run your business. Also, another important thing to consider is, does it integrate with other systems in your business? An example of that would be if you're using like a QuickBooks or a T-Sheets or even Intuit or Paychecks or ADP. Is that interfacing or integrating with your scheduling system, which is a huge time saver? And for identifying a best person to do this is, if you're going to do it in-house, that person, of course, would, help with picking the right system. But if you want anybody to do anything in your business, you want to make sure that you, the agency owner, also have an understanding of how it works so that you understand when it's not working correctly. I also tell people, look for local companies, look for companies that work with small businesses. That's because you want to make sure that you early on have a relationship with companies where if you need a little bit more time, a little bit more assistance, that they work with small businesses so they kind of tailor their customer service or their trainings to meet the needs of small business owners. Always look, like I said, for easy setup. If you're not tech savvy, like myself, I've been that way for some time. I'm definitely reaching out of that. If you're not tech savvy, don't get a system that has a lot of technical pieces to it. It'll make it a lot harder for you if you're going to run the payroll or anybody else to learn, or for you to teach it to someone else. So think about that. Question number 17. Where are all the contracts? And where are all the clients? And in this question, I put try, and try again. So just like any business, whether you're selling a product or service, you always have to be in sales mode. You always have to be ready because, one, you never know when your opportunity will present itself. But more than that, you also want to make sure that you're in a place where if your opportunity does present itself at a unconventional time or an unconventional moment, you're on point to communicate that to the potential client. So you can be able to share a little bit about your agency, explain why they should pick your agency versus others. Tell them a little bit about your connection to the community or your background. So you want to kind of always have that buzzing around in your head, so that you're able to really maximize on those opportunities, probably more so than before, because now we're not doing as many in person. So you can't drop by a facility or a hospital or healthcare system and kind of do like a quick check-in with an administrator or a director of nursing or a supervisor or those types. With having to either get on social media and do something of the version of what I'm doing, where you're doing Zoom sessions and things like that, you want to be an effective communicator. And when I say effective, I mean you practice it where anybody, anytime can talk with you and you automatically run into it. You practice different scenarios, taking from no's to maybes to yeses, how you word things. So you're kind of able to communicate it off the top of your head. And that takes time. Like I've done YouTube University to perfect things. I'm an ummer. And just like I just did, be more mindful of the fact that I do that. And instead of, because that's one of the things I learned, saying which is just habit, to take a pause, because I am also a fast talker. So little things like that really do make an impact. I tell people your contracts are probably closer than you realize. I've had NOSAs talk with me, or NOSAs that I work with get contracts from church events. They've been referred from friends or former coworkers, jobs that they had years prior. So where it might be isn't as important necessarily as much as, are you ready when the opportunity presents? The other thing is talk to people. Talk, 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 talk. Let people know what you're doing. You don't have to talk in a verbal sense. Share on your social media, share on your LinkedIn, share what's going on in your world. And you'll be amazed at how many people are not only watching, but interested in supporting what you're doing. But if you're not sharing it, then how will people know what you're up to? And then the last piece is, one of the great ways to get people's attention is based on your name. So in picking a name early on in your business and identifying its availability through your particular state, you also want to make sure that you are picking a name that's not only catchy, but is easy for people to understand what you're doing, right? So I don't necessarily give the example of the NOSA group, because there have been many iterations of the NOSA group from a logo standpoint of view. But a name standpoint of view, when people ask me, well, what is the NOSA group? Because it's named the NOSA group, that gives me the opportunity to explain that it's the nurse-owned staffing agency. This is what we do. This is how we can, work in the community. These are some of the clients we work with. So that's, using a name that has an acronym tied to it makes it a lot more easy. And it just so happens that it is a word, made up word, much like many other companies make up words. And we just kind of use it as a part of our everyday discussions. So in my experience, our first contract was with a client we had both, me and my business partner, previously worked for as travel nurses. So when we talk about not burning those bridges and making sure that you leave things on a good impression, it is key, because you never know when you have to walk back across it, and you never know what it may lead to. So that was our opportunity, or our door of opportunity. And we kind of grew from there. Question number 18. Number 18 is, do I need a partner for my business? So probably later on into February, I'll do a separate live or session that discusses, or YouTube, about partnerships. But I'll really just touch on here about my thoughts on partnerships, meaning that I did do a partnership, and kind of things to remember and be mindful of. So do you need a partner? No. There are a lot of people that go with solo, but in choosing to go solo, you have to consider the weight and the amount of responsibility that you're undertaking. And in not doing that, you may get off balance. You may get discouraged. So do I encourage partnerships? Yes. I think partnerships add value, especially if you're working with a partner where they bring something to the table that is maybe an area that you're weak in, and vice versa. So that allows a business to come together and move forward more effectively. So how that partnership looks really depends on you. It was just the two of us, but you can also do partnerships in the form of a group of nurses or a group of techs or CNAs. It's really up to you. But one of the things, and we even had to learn through our trials and tribulations in our own partnership, that is important very, very early on is to communicate expectations. So, what I do, how I work as a nurse is very different than the next person. How I operate my personal life, how I'm able to facilitate, the businesses on a professional level is different than the next person. Now, ideally, you attract similar people who have similar qualities. But when it comes to business, some people don't run their businesses in the same way that they maybe run their personal life. An example, maybe as a nurse on the floor, or even in my personal life, I'm very, very organized and I have sticky notes and I have calendars and I have all of my things on my phone, all of my appointments on my phone. I'm very organized. But for some people, in their personal lives, it could be very different. So when I speak about communicating expectations, that's what I'm talking about. Because at home, that person could be kind of messy and more lax and less structured, for whatever reason. It does you a disservice to assume that the person that you work with on the floor and all the greatness and things that they bring to the table is something that'll correlate in a work setting. Now, I will say they probably have similar qualities or good qualities, but if you don't communicate the expectation to them, you may go into a situation, and I've seen this happen, where you're starting the business and you're starting to feel like, hey, I'm doing all the work. Or I'm doing all the cold calling, or I'm funding all the money, or I'm the only person who talks to the employees, or I'm the only person really vested in the business. And part of that is you haven't communicated what you expect. And you also have to understand in groups or in partnerships, there's always going to be a lead person. Everybody can't be in charge. But collectively, much like we do at the NOSA group, especially our amazing Facebook group, you get a little bit further. But realistically, in order to sustain it, everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to be rowing in the same direction. Everybody has to be moving towards that same ultimate goal. So, some other things, if you decide to go solo, which is totally fine as well, think about how it might impact your life. Think about how much time and commitment. My notion and what I tell people when they say, well, how much time did you spend on the business? 16 hours a day, every day, all the time. I took calls everywhere. On vacation, I took calls. At night, I took calls. In the middle of the night, I took calls. So in the beginning, when I was a scheduler, human resources operations person, I'm always available. So you really want to think about, if I'm a solo person, is that feasible? What impact it might have on your other elements of your life? And could it hinder your ability to succeed? And for some people, they're willing to take it on and run with it. For some people, they have to do it in doses. So really think about, hey, is it something that I can do? But has it been done both ways? For sure. And one other thing for people who decide to start solo, you want to think about starting small and increasing roles and responsibilities over time. So if I was a solopreneur, would I jump in and start the agency and go nationwide early on? No, that's too much. But is it something that I can work towards and maybe every quarter add a state or every year, depending on what's going on financially for me? Yeah, that's definitely very doable. Number 19, and I think these are the last two questions. Like I mentioned before, these are the questions from a post I did in our Facebook group. If you have questions that you want me to answer that I haven't answered yet, let me know. We're down to about, I want to say we're right about 25 questions at this point over the last 3 Facebook Lives, I'll continue them into February. I think by the end of February, I will have done all of the questions. So definitely share any questions that may have gotten missed or you want to get answers to. The next question, number 20. How do I market the business? There are all kinds of ways to market the business. I think marketing your business should, just like selling it, should be something you do all day. And marketing your business, really getting the word out, is a lot based on where you are and where the people are who you're interested in connecting with. And in my experiences, especially with COVID, you can't attend events the way you used to. You can't attend conferences and conventions and associations. And even if you have like your local chamber of commerce events, everything is happening via a Zoom, WebEx type of situation. So I think in kind of marketing your business, you want to get creative. So you might want to host a Instagram Live or a Instagram takeover with a partner. It might be worth your time to host a special event for nurses or Nurses Week. So getting the word out there about your business can be a little bit tricky in these times, but the traditional ways work and are equally as effective. But your social media presence does a lot of the legwork for you. Having a LinkedIn page, having a YouTube page, having a website, having Facebook. And if you're really out there, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, Patreon, those are all environments where you can market your business and the services that you offer. Some of the more traditional things, whether it be business breakfast meetings, meetups, social events, those are still things that you can do. Those are still things that companies are doing, mostly virtually, depending on where you're located in the US. But those are great ways to market your business. Some other ways that NOSAs have done it in the past include doing coffee and donuts for a particular facility, also, and leaving like their business card, doing candy jars. Those have worked. Other creative ways around Nurse Practitioner Week or CNA Week or Administrative Professional Week, kind of acknowledging that particular staff, or if you have a partnership or relationship with them, acknowledging that as well. So those are great ways and tools to market your business to others. Referrals. I don't know the stats on it, but healthcare industry, healthcare staffing is a heavy referral-based industry from an employee and employer standpoint of view. So putting it out there through brochures and presentations and lives and things like that really helps the word get out, and you never know who's watching, which is always my motto. So make sure you present the best version of yourself with the best information about what your agency is doing, and keep doing it. And then the next question, I think this is the last one. Let's do a quick count. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I think we have one more after this, is question number 21. And this is human resources. So as I mentioned early on in my video, I am a former, probably still, human resources professional who is out here transitioning or combining or bringing it together, my human resources and my nursing background, to create a staffing agency. That was ultimately what I did. But I still know a few things. And just like nursing is its own industry and profession, human resources is 100% that same thing. A couple of things you can do early on as a business owner is understand the employment laws in your state, because there are definitely changes state by state. And then, of course, there are the federal employment laws as well. So get an understanding. If you haven't, SHRM, SHRM.org is a great resource to find out, the Society for Human Resources Management. Make sure that you get the basics. So in getting started, some of the basics around like that human resources function is around writing things down, just like nursing, and having policies and procedures and rules in place and in writing. Having an employee handbook that kind of sets the expectation for your employees is key. Making sure that you orient and communicate with your employees is key, as well as acknowledging any receipt so that they cannot say at a later date, I didn't know that because you didn't tell me. You want to make sure that you have the paper trail. So a big part of human resources is based in paper trails and communication. Making sure that your processes are always fair, professional, honest, and reasonable. Make sure that you have any sort of communication with employees, especially when things go wrong, in writing. And the question always comes up, and it recently came up in the group. And I'll just state my opinion on it. And it was around, should you text or text with potential employees about pay and things like that. I think that's a viable option. I've seen a lot of recruiters in a lot of different industries do it. But as a CYA, I would always follow up via an email. So to confirm, as discussed, dot, 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 dot. Because you don't want to end up in a situation where someone screenshotted something that you sent, or they misunderstood, or they saw it one way and you meant it another way. So you always want to follow up. The follow-up can be an email and a conversation. It can be just an email, but you always want to follow up whatever you agree to with a person via a text message as well. And you always want to use text messaging services or systems that allow tracking. So it allows you to bring up that message later on if you need to. A couple of other good tips includes, which is typically around the human resources function, is checking in with your employees. I did a post in the group not too long ago about an employee out of San Francisco. And that was kind of really touching on the fact that we need to check in. So even as agency owners, especially as nurses, we need to check in and make sure that our employees feel valued. Not that at the point that they sign the contract or they start their shift, oh, we don't hear from you unless it's related to pay. No, you want to always check in and make sure that they're good. They're getting what they need from that particular assignment and they don't need anything. You want to make sure that things are easy as possible. There's so many apps and resources or communities or platforms that allow people to jump in and connect with recruiters, connect with human resources, so that, hey, if I'm an individual not getting something that I need, or I need more information about benefits, or I'm interested in another opportunity, that process is as seamless as possible. Like I mentioned, a lot of staffing agencies are using apps either from other companies or apps that they develop, and that's a great communication tool. And it also allows for agency owners to share information. So as you guys probably already know, a lot of healthcare facilities and systems are requiring vaccine mandates. Having an app, a tool, a resource, or platform to talk about that is important. We just started flu season last year. Communicating, sharing that via an app or resource or tool is important. And just making it as a part of the orientation process, so that as an employee, you know, hey, the expectation is that you tap into this particular community to kind of find out what's happening or other things that may be happening, especially for employees that are out in the field. The next one is do training and more training. You can really not do enough training in healthcare. So I tell people, do it, plan it, do it again. But for it to really stick, as a former nurse, be creative about it. Some companies offer incentives to attend trainings more than once. They offer special certifications. They involve employees in the training process. Those are all ways to further connect employees in the process, which typically gets you more employees to attend and participate. Be firm in your decisions. That's another thing, employee relations under the human resources umbrella. And a big part of that is consistency. So if you do things a certain way, do it that same way every time. If you have a hiring process, write it down and make sure that you and any staff members involved in the process do it that way. When it comes to pay, create the process, write it down, do it the same way every time. That eliminates a lot of confusion. Have in your policies and procedures the policy and procedures that you use for those different types of things, so that one employee can't say, oh, well, I got this and this other person got that. So that's really key. And then the last one, number 24, and I think number 24 is a two-parter. 24 and 25 is, who are my competitors? Competition is healthy. It's a thing, and it's never a problem, really. So, who are your competitors? One, do your research. Find out who they are, like where you are and where you get started. Find out what other agencies are in your area. Go to their websites. Go to Google them. Check out their Instagram or social media pages. Do the research. Check out their Indeed if they're on Indeed. So you want to kind of be clear as far as what your competition is, not in a sense of actually trying to compete with them, but to understand why you would be different. You know, why employees should work for you. And then as time changes, as we've seen with COVID, hey, if employer A is offering same day pay, that might be something to explore as an employer B. If employer A is offering an app or a resource or some sort of streamlined process that makes it easier for people to pick up shifts or communicate or connect with them, that might be something worth considering. But in order to find that out, you have to do the work and the research to find out who your competition is. And I say this as I say many, many things and many, many quotes that I've heard. There are 100,000 gabillion brands of bread. And when you go into the grocery store, depending on who you are and what you're looking for, you look for what works for you. And that same analogy applies to me for healthcare staffing agencies. There's tons of them. The catch is some of them work regionally, some of them work nationwide, some of them just work in that particular state. But with that being the case, the reason someone picks that agency versus another agency is where you as an agency owner or someone getting started want to put your focus. Not that, hey, I'm in Delaware, or hey, I'm in Maryland, or hey, I'm in Louisiana or Mississippi or Arizona or New Mexico, and there's 20 agencies here. It doesn't matter. The reason they're going to pick you is where you want to focus, and that's where you want to make sure that your messaging comes across. And sometimes people pick people for their experiences at that particular agency. Sometimes they pick it for pay. Sometimes they pick it for convenience. Having all those things is really great, but having one or two of those things is even nice, because then that's what you use to sell your agency to potential applicants. And then this one was an addition. Like I said, this is 25 about what are some of the characteristics that you think would make a good staffing agency owner. So I shared this with the group. So I'm going to share some of the characteristics they shared. Some of the characteristics included being a hard worker, offering attractive compensation packages. Let's see, providing some of your traditional packages such as free medical, paid holidays, vacation time, being paid for your birthday. I haven't seen that one in a while. Extra time off for last minute shifts. Essentially, that person was talking about just appreciating your staff. Let's see. Fairness, integrity, experience, being consistent, offering higher pay rates. So those were some of the characteristics that we thought people look for in a good staffing agency. So as always, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I'll be back next Tuesday. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy this wonderful winter weather that's coming our way on the East Coast. More and more and more of it. It's winter, and winter is not playing around. If, like I said, you have questions that you want me to answer that I haven't answered, like I said, I'm at 25, so we still have a little ways to go. Let me know, and I'll include that in my FAQs. And as always, you can drop it here in the comments, or you can reach out to me directly. If you're interested in being a part of our Facebook group, somewhere around here is the link to tie you directly to the Facebook group and join. We're doing the spectacular things in the Facebook group. I'm excited about us reaching officially 5,000 members throughout the United States. We're a community. We're a community of nurse-owned and healthcare professional-owned and others who are jumping into this healthcare staffing business and doing really, really well. Many of us have grown leaps and bounds from when this process group started back in 2018. We're celebrating 4 or 5 years at this point. and we're running strong. So we're trying to make an impact on the industry, not only through our expertise, but starting to make a change so that the industry allows for a more level playing field for all who are interested in entrepreneurship through healthcare staffing. Again, thank you as always, and I hope you have a great one.